Hey guys, today I just wanted to make a quick video for any students who are trying to get into UofT engineering right now. I know that when I was going through the process, it was really stressful and really horrible, just the anticipation and everything. So I just wanted to make this video to show everybody what I did to get in. Just like a disclaimer, I don't really know what about my application was good and what about my application was potentially really, really bad. This is just what I did, and I just wanted to show that to you guys. So if you were curious, the one that I got into specifically was engineering science at UofT, and based on whatever statistics and things that you can find online, I saw that that was one of the harder ones to get into out of the engineering courses you could take at UofT. So I'm just assuming that this video and what I did is applicable to anyone who's going into any of the UofT engineerings because it helped me get into the harder one. So let me just go through all of the process and stuff. So first, what you're probably curious about is the admission dates. And this is something that I was vigorously searching for in the middle of the night because I just wanted to know after I submitted my application, when are they going to tell me whether I got in or not? So what I discovered is that they have 3 admission periods, one in February, one in March, and one in May. To get into UofT engineering in February, they're going to look at your grade 11 marks. And the other thing about that is that if you want a chance of getting in February, you have to submit all of your application and everything by an earlier date in December. I actually did that, but that's not the time when I got in February. I didn't get into UofT engineering in February. Rather, I got in March. So really, me doing the early application was maybe not the greatest of ideas because I didn't even get in February, but I did get in March. In March, they don't look at your grade 11 marks, they look at your grade 12 marks. So if I had to choose what you're going to focus on, make sure your grade 12 marks are good. Right? And then the last admission period that they have is in late May, near that OUAC acceptance date. Really close to the acceptance date, they release all of the May admissions. Now, something really important that you should probably take a look at is the grades. These were my grades going in. So for History 12, I ended off with a 98%. For Economics 12, I ended off with a 98%. For Computer Science, I ended off with a 98%. For Philosophy, I ended up with a 100% average. For Functions 12, I ended off with a 100% average. English 12, I ended off with a 99% average. Calculus 12, I ended off with a 100% average. For Data Management 12, I ended off with a 99% average. For Bio 12, I ended off with a 99% average. For Physics 12, I ended off with a 99% average. And for Chem 12, I ended off with a 97% average. So all of the subjects that I have with a yellow dot beside it, those are all courses that I took in grade 11. So when they looked at my marks, they were looking at my final marks, right? So for History, Economics, Data Management, Chem, they were looking at my final marks because I had already finished the course by the end of grade 11 and the start of grade 12. The courses that you have to take, the prerequisites for engineering, or at least EngSci, was Functions, English, Calculus, Physics, and Chemistry. And I took most of those in grade 12, so they were looking at my midterm marks. These are all my final marks, but my midterm marks were pretty similar, except for Bio, which was a little bit lower. So this is just what I had going into the admissions process. And this is what they looked at when they offered me admissions. Oh, just a side note, they do take your top 6 grades, right? So they took all the highlighted ones for me, and then they took one more. They say that they take their top 6, so they probably looked at my philosophy grade, but I never really know what they're actually doing. So this is just all of them. This is what they could have looked at. Next, my extracurriculars. So filling out the extracurricular portion of the engineering applicant portal is it was a very tedious process for me, at least, right? So don't worry if it feels a little daunting for you. Just make sure to fill it out well. So some of the things that I did in high school was in grade 12, I was the president of the student council. When I was in grade 11, the school board asked me to be a student representative for the strategic plan of the school, which is like making a plan for how to improve the school, so I just put that down too. I've been a math tutor since I was in grade 9 all the way until grade 12, so that works. I was on the senior volleyball team until grade 10, and then that's when COVID hit, so I wasn't really able to join it in grade 11 or 12. But they're being super nice about like doing things in earlier grades because of COVID, and they realized the hindrances that it's put on everyone. So I was in the senior volleyball team. I also have a little small business that I started in like the height of COVID, like April 2021, when I was extremely bored. It's called Tula Designs. Go check it out on Instagram if you want to. I was a writer for the school newspaper, and I also did RCM Piano, which is Royal Conservatory of Music Piano, and I had up until level 8 by the time that I had submitted my application. I also just kind of did a bit of volunteering here and there. I was part of some organization that helped kids who were trying to get their confirmation get volunteer hours and things. So I just like helped them do some community service, like making baked goods for less fortunate individuals, or making scarves for people who are cold, like on the streets, and things like that. So, just do your best to try and find some extracurriculars that you can get involved with. If you're wondering about like the layout of how you should fill out your extracurricular section, what I did was I did maximum 3 to 4 sentences per extracurricular that I was talking about, like maximum. You don't want them to go through so much. And then you can also put in awards and things into that profile. So what I did was anything that I was ever nominated for or anything I ever won, I just put it in there. I'm not sure if that was a smart move or not, but it is what I did. And I got admission eventually, so maybe do that if you want to. But any award that I could have ever won, I put it in. And any award that I was nominated for, I put it in. And then I put all of these extracurriculars and then a couple of miscellaneous ones too. Okay, next. So, the personal profile, if you haven't started your application yet, because maybe the date hasn't come or something, the personal profile is probably the most stressful part of the whole application process, at least it was for me. And if you don't know what it is, it's basically like a mock interview that they're gonna do for you. But it's not some sort of face-to-face interview, it's actually like kind of a do-it-yourself interview. So what happens is that you have 3 questions. One that's a 10-minute written response, one that's a 2-minute video response, and one that's a 3-minute video response. It kind of gets harder as it goes on. I can't reveal any information about this because I'm not allowed to, like any information about what the questions were that I got. But I will say, like, I applied for a couple of different engineering schools, and what I found was that this one was the hardest one. Like, the UofT one was by far the hardest one. So, yeah. I felt like I should give some tips on how to do this. So, before you do it, make sure that you're in a quiet, distraction-free area with not a lot of background noise. Just do your best to make that environment for yourself because it's going to make you calm for this interview. Make sure that your technology is working. I can't emphasize this one enough. If you have some sort of huge technological problem and then you go into your interview, you might get super duper flustered and then you won't be able to just say what you need to say properly, right? So if something goes really wrong, then you can email them and say, I'm sorry this happened, but please take what you can from the interview, right? But just when things like that go wrong, it can get in your head and it can make it really difficult for you to finish it, right? So really make sure that your tech is working. If you can online, if anything's published by like the time this video comes out, see if you can find some questions and try doing them. Try practicing like talking to a camera, because it's not something that, unless you're like used to being on camera or something, it's not something that people are very known to be able to do, right? So practice talking to a camera and looking at yourself and like seeing how you can look as natural as possible when you're doing this, because like all of these like scary people are going to be looking at you doing this interview. And a big tip I have actually is like identify which university you really want to go to. You know, like what's your number one choice? For me, my number one choice was UofT. So what I would have recommended to myself is that you should do the other interviews for other universities before you do the one that's your first choice, because it'll give you practice, right? So I didn't do that, which was a bad idea, but you should do that, right? So I know that Waterloo Waterloo University has an interview. I know McMaster's has an interview, and I know that they're both easier than the UofT one, right? So do those interviews first and then go into the UofT one, because it is the most difficult one, and it's also going to give you practice and make sure that you're as prepared as you can be for the university that you want to go to. And it works like in other ways too. If Waterloo's your top choice, then do the UofT one first, right? Just make sure your top choice one is the one that you do once you've had the most practice. Next, this might be an obvious one, but look like respectable on camera, right? So don't show up in your pajamas or something. Just make sure that you look fine before you go into your interview. Don't look like you rolled out of bed. And finally, relax. Like really, really relax and drink some water, because it's gonna be over eventually, right? Make some water. Make sure you have some water beside you, because your throat is gonna get dry when you're answering all these questions. And just like do your best, right? There's no real way to know what they're gonna ask you, right? But whatever they say something and try your best. Okay. Just a little bit of final advice for me in this whole application process. Try your best in high school. You know, some people may tell you like, oh, your grades don't matter. The final average of the class is like a 75% or something. You know, like don't just base what you're trying to achieve off of what like the average of the class might be. Like do the best that you can, because maybe someone in the class has a 95, someone has a 99% average. There might not be a difference in like intellect between these two people, but in the end, like when UofT gives scholarships, they're really stingy about it, right? So they're probably going to give more money to the person with the 99 than the person with the 95. And you have a better chance of getting in with the 99 than you do with the 95. Although I know people who have gotten in with the 95. It's a very good mark, and it's very possible, right? So just do your best. Don't try and like slack off, because grade 12 is not the time to do that. My next piece of advice is get involved, right? Just like look around your community, look around your school community, see what there is that you can do, and just try and do it. Like it's the time to hustle and get things that you can put on these applications, right? So if you can be a tutor, be a tutor. If you can like do some sort of volunteering, do that volunteering. If you can help people, right? Just try your best. Next, UofT is a hard school to get into, right? So have backups. Don't just apply to UofT and assume that you're going to get in or something. It's a bad idea. So what I would recommend that you do is apply to a bunch of different engineering universities, and then, like by a bunch, I mean like 3 or 4, and then maybe another one that's you're pretty sure that you're going to get into, right? Make sure that you have like something to fall back on. And then every part of your application is important. I saw a statistic that for EngSci, at least, that if you have a 100% average, right? Like, I don't know how you're going to get that, but if you have a 100% average in high school, then you still only have a 50% chance of getting into engineering science, right? So every part of your application is worth the time to do it as best as you possibly can, right? So really just try. And then don't expect an email with your admissions decision. This is what I thought was going to happen. I thought they would send me an email. Like, the Arts and Sciences program at UofT does send an email, like, you've been received in admissions decisions, go check your applicant portal. But it won't do that for this one. It won't. So just, like, keep everyone, like, once a day, once a week or something, check your admissions portal and see if the status has changed. And that's how you're going to find out if you got in or not. But don't expect an email. Like, maybe you got in March, and then it's May, and that's when you decide to check your application portal, and then you'll see that you got in, like, 3 months ago, and you could have known, right? So just check your application portal to see any status updates and things. And now, this is a piece of advice for people like me. Don't go online, especially after you've submitted your application, and just start searching up statistics and things that are going to do nothing but scare you, right? Like, after I submitted my application, I just started Googling at like 2 o'clock in the morning. How likely is it for me to get in? If I did this and this and this, how am I going to get into this program? And then you'll see statistics and all this nonsense that's just going to freak you out. And there's just no point of doing it anymore, you know? And my final piece of advice is just remember what is and what isn't in your control. You know, it's in your control to do your best in high school. It's in your control to get involved in your community. It's in your control to make sure that you have something to fall back on, right? But once you submit your application and you've done your best on your application, there's just nothing you can do. You know, so don't go online. Don't spend until like the depths of the night going onto Reddit or Google and stuff and stressing yourself out unnecessarily. It's just not worth it. And it doesn't make any sense to do that. You know, so do what you can, but don't try and grab a hold of what you have no chance of changing. And you know what? If you don't get in, it's fine. There are other engineering schools which are going to make you into an engineer. It's up to you to do something with that, you know? So just do your best and don't forget that there's only so much that you can do. And, you know, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that this gave you a little bit of peace of mind or anything. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and just leave a comment down below if you want to see anything else from me, or if you have any questions. I'll go through the comments and answer some of them if you'd like. So, yeah. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.